Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Oscar Buzz. Trevor here, joined by Thomas. We have more Sundance reviews. We're gonna have a lot of them this week. We watched a lot of movies at Sundance, so now you get to watch reviews of us all week if that is something you would like to. I don't know. We have A Real Pain by Jesse Eisenberg. This is his second directorial effort. I wish his first directorial effort didn't. Sorry. When You Finish Saving the World, I think is like a terrible movie. This is better. This is better. Did you see When You Finish Saving the World?
I never saw that. No, I
Okay,
wasn't. I
thank you.
wasn't going to check that out.
No, this is a significant improvement on that for him. It's far less cynical. It's kind of like a drastic shift because When You Finish Saving the World is like this very deeply like cynical film to the point where it just becomes like kind of redundant, annoying, obnoxious, insufferable. Whereas this is a really warm film, to be honest. Like tonally, it's like the complete opposite in a way. So it's starring Jesse Eisenberg alongside Kieran Culkin as the two leads. Kieran Culkin, Jesus Christ, great performance from him. I thought he was fantastic.
I thought he was good. I think slightly he leaned a little too much into the Roman Roy shtick a bit. I think in the mannerisms, I want to see.
I think partially it's also him. But...
maybe it is also just him as a performer. I do want to see him do something slightly more varied, but equally, I think this film really does give his performance space to breathe. I think that is one of the film's problems. Is there is a lot of monologues. And they do drag, and every so often you'll just be in a scene, you'll be enjoying the scene, and suddenly it will slowly transition into a monologue, and you'll be watching the same character speak for about, a good 5 minutes. So the performances are allowed to breathe, which I do think aids them, and I do think Kieran Culkin did give a very good performance. It just in future, I'd like to see him do something a bit more better, because I know he has it in him. I know he has it in him.
No, Kieran Culkin, like I think he's a phenomenal actor, and like he can have the range to do so. But no, I mean, I don't know. I thought his work in this was really, really good. Like, regardless of whether the monologues worked, I don't think all of them do. But like in isolation, his performance of them, I think, is fantastic. Like, he can only do what he's given. Work with what he's given. And I think when given those monologues, like I don't know if he could have done them any better, to be honest. Like. With the direction he was given. So I thought he was fantastic. So it follows these two cousins as they're basically taking a trip around like Poland, and they're visiting like Holocaust sites, and it's after their grandmother has died, and they learn more about themselves, and it's kind of what you expect, to be honest, from the beginning when you hear that premise. Like it gets a bit emotional, and they learn more about themselves. And then it goes to some darker places, and it's it's quite funny as well. Like it has its comedic beats. And I think it's effective for the most part. Like I don't think it really expands beyond the premise ever, but I think working within the premise, like I think it gets as much out of it as you really can. To be honest, and a lot of that is driven through the performances. But I do think I have some problems with Eisenberg's direction, which
I'd agree. I appear to be more negative on this one than you. I don't know.
You're the only person who have been like really
and I didn't hate it. Like as you say, it is charming enough. It is warm enough. A lot of it felt a bit insincere to me, and I don't know how much of this was just Jesse Eisenberg's voice coming through. I think he really did implant a lot of his voice into this film. And if you don't really always connect with the stuff Jesse Eisenberg's doing, he's always doing something interesting, which I appreciate. Yeah. But if you don't always connect with it, I think you could struggle to really fall in love with this film. Like I think it wants you to. I think it really wants you to fall in love with it. And I think it is almost desperate for that in parts. I do think it really does reach for these emotional moments in the monologues, in scenes like where they're by the statues. I'm not going to spoil what happened, but it feels like it's really reaching for these emotional moments, and I think a lot of them just come across as a bit unearned. To me, is it funny in parts? Yeah, sure. I think he's a competent writer, at least in terms of talking about dialogue and stuff like that. But yeah, a bit insincere in my eyes, a little bit just smug, like, yeah, look at me, I'm doing a 5-minute monologue now, so pay attention. Watchers, I don't know. It just felt a bit, his hands felt all over the project in a way that just annoyed me a little and felt a bit self-indulgent. And I did not expect this sort of charming Sundance film to feel self-indulgent to either regard. So I was a bit perturbed by it. I mean, maybe I am coming at this from the perspective of someone who'd heard about all the in-person screenings, heard that it was brilliant, and just came into it. It was really quite underwhelmed with it. Maybe it will film that will grow on me. I could see that, but as of right now, I'm not. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I think the film fails on a lot of levels.
I think it's interesting to compare it to like another Sundance film, Didi, which is also, very much the director is like quite literally the main character of the film, and it is very much his fingerprints all over it, but it's done in a much more deft way, I think.
Well, he adapted it to feel more universal. Whereas I don't think this film I could ever connect with it truly because I never felt what these characters were feeling. I never felt placed in their experience.
Yeah, which is fair. Yeah.
Which a lot of that would come through the direction, I guess, on your point.
Right, which is why I do think the biggest problem is with the direction, because overall the direction of the film does feel a bit flat to me.
Yeah.
And it isn't doing much. And I would have liked to see it do something interesting with how it was shot or how it was constructed. And it always felt safe. And it always just felt comfortable with just letting the performances do their thing, which is fine. But I do think it also like it never, I guess, like aided and reinforced the performances through the construction of the film. Every element kind of felt disjointed from one another, and not to say that those elements aren't good. Like the performances are good. It's not like it's shot or edited poorly. It's fairly competent, but they never felt like they were working in unison to make me feel things, which is why I think that some of those emotional bits did feel a bit disingenuous, because it felt like it was being forced through one element of the film and not the film in unison making you feel that thing.
Yeah, and I feel a lot of the problem as well comes down to the fact that the direction doesn't quite draw you in that way. And it just I just wasn't I wasn't connecting with these characters really. Like I appreciate the type.
And I think the thing I liked it a bit more is because I did connect with Kieran a bit more in his work. I did feel a bit more in with him. I never really got into Eisenberg's character.
No. And I think that's another thing as well that I just had, sorry to interrupt you, but in feeling quite safe and in feeling quite comfortable where it is, when it reaches for those dramatic moments, particularly with Eisenberg's character and Culkin's character, and when it goes for those bigger moments, I just don't think it quite earns it because it's been so comfortable, it's been so safe leading up to those points that they feel quite out of nowhere and out of place. And therefore, when the dramatic stuff really feels out of place, the whole film kind of just crumbles beneath it.
Yeah. And like, again, this isn't to say like I'm still relatively positive on the film. I have some issues with it, but like I still enjoyed it. It is an enjoyable film. I just don't think when it tries, it's a nice watch. It's fun to just sit down and watch. I don't think when it tries to be something more and when it tries to be something greater than it is, like it never felt comfortable just being, a nice watch. And I think that when it tried to reach for those more emotional bits, as you say, it didn't necessarily work, but I don't think that they detracted from the rest of the film. I just think it was unfortunately a bit frustrating that it didn't feel like it necessarily added anything.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So, but overall, like it is a nice, fun film that does, I do think it does reach some emotional bits. Like some of the emotional moments, again, particularly with Kieran, I think do work. And it's primarily just because of Kieran's performance.
They're the only bits, and it is
just Kieran's performance, but like they do work. Like I laughed. I felt the emotions during some bits, but it never felt like it was elevated to something more per se.
No, and it felt like it was trying to be, and that's where
that's
where I ended up a bit annoyed by it.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part. If it didn't feel like it was trying to be something more.
Because I think frustrated was a good because I think like there is stuff there that works. Eisenberg feels comfortable in parts, but other times he feels just uncomfortable, and it just creates quite a messy experience when it should have just been a nice, simple, charming, delightful little thing. And unfortunately, it wasn't quite that, and it went a bit off kilter.
Right. And I would have liked to see a version of this film where it does engage with more challenging material in a stronger manner. But it's the fact that I feel like that challenging material, like we aren't saying like, oh, the movie shouldn't, the movie should just be nice. It shouldn't even try to be challenging. And no, I would like for it to be more challenging, but it didn't. It was just the fact that it felt like it fumbled those moments a bit. And I think why I do lean slightly more positive is, yeah, I wasn't quite as annoyed that it didn't feel like it necessarily reached the emotional heights for me as it did with other people. But like again, that's also just an entirely subjective thing. Like if other people, if the emotional stuff connected with them, like it's great. I wish it connected for me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
I wish I liked this film more. I feel like I should have liked this film more
Right.
than
But it is a hard film to dislike, I think. I
exactly.
think
That's why,
everybody's
like,
going to like it, and then your mileage will just go as far as how much you're able to connect with the emotional stuff. And I think
if
for
we're
us,
doing ratings, I'd be looking at what, a 5 or a 6, probably a 5, but like should have a
yeah,
middling rating. Like it's
yeah, yeah,
not. I'm not
yeah.
not
It
recommending it. I think a
it
lot of people will like it, and a lot of people
yeah,
will really
yeah.
connect with it.
I
So
yeah, I'm at a 7 with it. And it's like, yeah, it's a very hard film to dislike, and it's just again, your mileage will go as far as you're able to emotionally connect, which is just an entirely personal and subjective thing. And I feel like we spent a lot of this just trying to figure out why
hmm,
we didn't connect with it as much as I think others did. But you know, I'd still watch it. I'd still watch it.
yeah.
But those are our thoughts on A Real Pain. So thank you everybody for watching. And until next time, we'll have plenty more Sundance reviews. So until then, stay safe. Thank you for watching. And goodbye.